What's up guys, and welcome to 5 upcoming smartphones that I am most excited for. Obviously there will be phones missing from this list, but these are the phones which either we have a lot of information about or are looking extremely promising. So with that being said, let's get right into it. First up we have the red hydrogen devices, which created a huge amount of hype at the time of release, but very recently the buzz has kind of dropped off a cliff. But now is actually a very good time to get excited because the release is just around the corner and we know almost everything about these phones. If the price wasn't already an indicator, these two phones that the company is releasing are going to be very much niche products, but they're still nonetheless exciting because of how drastically they break the mold. The phone is going to have a holographic display in a similar vein to what the 3DS can do, but the technology is taken much further. Not to mention it's going to be far higher resolution. It's going to use the company's own proprietary holographic 4-view technology, but it will also be able to convert most standard stereoscopic 3D content into the .h4v file that the phone natively supports. Unfortunately, to film your own content natively in H4v, you will actually need 4 cameras, so the phone can't do it on its own by default. What is very interesting though, is that the smartphone is modular. So as you probably expect from a company like Red, a lot of these mods are going to come in the form of camera enhancements. And again, going by the company's past history, they're probably going to be very expensive. But it will support mods that will allow you to natively record H4v files. It'll support interchangeable lenses at some point, and also it has multi-directional audio. So it can apparently convert standard 2.1 stereo surround into something that feels like a 5.1 experience, so that'll be interesting to see. So then we've got Samsung's upcoming flagships, and aside from being seen in the flesh, we know a lot about these phones. The fact that Samsung has reportedly bought out almost the entire batch of Qualcomm's next Snapdragon 845 chips, rendering a lot of the other competing companies perhaps using last-gen processors. The fact that these phones will have the same size and probably same resolution displays as the current generation S8 and S8 Plus, but at the same time they will adopt Samsung's new Sunflower AMOLED technology, so it'll probably mean better colour reproduction, higher levels of brightness. The latest reports are all but confirming that the phones will also retain the headphone jack and at the same time be able to record video in 1000 frames per second, probably at a resolution of 720p. If it was 1080p, it would be a little bit too good to be true, and if it was less than 720p, it wouldn't really be anything to brag about. The next phone is the Oneplus 6, and from a company that seems to have settled on a bit of a pattern of 2 phones per year, the Oneplus 6 is going to be something big, because for the last 2 years, the company has released a completely brand new smartphone in June time, and then a slightly more iterative upgrade later down the year. And the Oneplus 6 is going to be its brand new phone. Historically, every time the OnePlus flagships have gone up in number, they've also gone up in price. So unfortunately we should expect the same to happen with the OnePlus 6, but at the same time it will be at least $200 below the rest of the competition. The phone is very likely to have the top tier Snapdragon 845 and 8GB of RAM. More RAM seems a little bit unnecessary, and any less would seem like a bit of a downgrade. Unfortunately, wireless charging doesn't seem to be on the agenda, because with the 5T, when a spokesperson was asked about it, they mentioned that it was quite incompatible with dash charging, which is the company's own proprietary charging technology. Considering how good dash charging is in terms of charging speeds and also low temperatures, it seems unlikely the company is going to ditch that just to cram in wireless charging. Water resistance though is very likely, considering that last year it was one of the few things that the OnePlus 5 and 5T didn't have, which most of its competitors did have, and also that now is a chance for the company to move to a new body. And expect a similar, but at the same time slightly higher, screen-to-body ratio than we've already seen on the 5T. So this will be a very much screen-dominated phone. Now, Samsung has confirmed they've been working on a foldable smartphone. In fact, we recently saw a leak on Samsung's support website, which was apparently of this folding phone, and that very much indicates that it's nearing its final phase of production. Now this is known as the Samsung Galaxy X to a lot of people, that's kind of the ongoing codename, and it's a very exciting prospect. We have seen folding smartphones, like the recent ZTE Axon M, which wasn't really a huge success story by the way. But what Samsung has up its sleeve with the X is a little bit different. So the phone is not just foldable, but the screen itself is where the bend is occurring. It's likely to have a similar spec to the S9 and the S9 Plus, but some of the components are going to have to be rethought a little bit. Because essentially the phone is going to have to be able to fold directly in half whilst retaining every single one of its connections. So perhaps the battery might have to be split into 2, or a slightly more flexible camera module might have to be used. there's definitely been a lot of thinking behind this smartphone. But what it can potentially allow you to do is to carry a 7-inch display in the form factor of a 5-inch smartphone, and that prospect is exciting. The next one is a little bit controversial. So a lot of you guys know that I really like the iPhone X, but at the same time it feels like a phone that is nearly there but not quite. So we don't really know what this phone is going to look like or what it's going to be called, because Apple has made a complete mess of their naming convention, releasing an iPhone 8 and an iPhone X in the same year. We do have an idea of where Apple is headed with this product, and that itself is something to look forward to. Face ID very much feels like the future of authentication, but at the same time it's not quite reliable enough right now for the company to justify having ditched Touch ID for it. Having said that, the same way Apple took portrait mode from something that was very much a beta to almost a must-have feature a year on, they could do something similar with Face ID. If it was able to recognize you in more lighting conditions from more different angles, then it would be a very good replacement for Touch ID. But that brings me on to the second point. As well as potentially introducing a 3D touch home button, they could also, at this point in time, integrate a screen-embedded fingerprint scanner to continue the legacy of what Touch ID has created and just to give people the option. And another thing I would really like to see is just a little bit more refinement in the software, till we reach the point where every gesture you're making on this phone feels organic. It doesn't take much effort, and also you're getting the right response from the OS that you would expect given the motion you put in. So for example, the fastest way to close an application on the iPhone X involves 2 swipes, holding down on the app and then trying to tap a tiny little button in the corner. It doesn't really feel that easy. Anyway guys, I really hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments below which smartphones you are most excited for next year. And with that being said, my name is Aaron, this is Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'm signing out.